Thank you everyone for joining us. This is the Reverie Roundtable, which we have Mondays, 8 p.m. Eastern. We have an amazing group of guests here. If you watch us on YouTube, please like, comment, subscribe, and consider becoming a YouTube member. Hitting that join button, supporting us that way. If you're enjoying this content, 7 days a week of content that we provide you with. We are. I'm going to introduce these amazing individuals, and we're going to have hopefully a fun time fighting with each other, because that's how bros hang out. Let's go to Bam. Bam, thank you for coming back. Bam's a very much wanted fixture of this channel, right? So we're always happy to have him around. What's up, buddy?
Nothing. Pretty good. You came with the heat with the topics today, as always, but like these in particular, should be really, really interesting, and not in a great way. I see how you decided to order us you have the black people up top. And then we're leveled up, and but no, I'm here for it. Like I said, I think this will be a conversation for the books.
But Dibby's below. Oh, what about that?
He's just a token.
Yeah, he's a frog.
It's another one of those rules: as above, so below. So you got the other black on the bottom.
Plausible deniability for Prime. I'm not segregating my panelists. Doobie's a minority.
6% black.
It's just like some of my best friends. I can't be racist because of them.
6% ain't gonna produce the girth, bro. That's not the same thing.
Look, it's a one drop rule. That's at least 6 drops, and they all went to my dick. Okay, we all know that. The one Ashkenazi drop that I got went straight to my brain. That's why I'm saying.
Now that's racist.
I didn't say it.
Look, it's just stats. I'm just saying.
Katie, if you're watching, I didn't say it. Please. Okay. All right, moving on. Let's go to my man Eli Monty, back with us. We haven't had him in a little bit. How are you, Eli Monty?
I'm pretty good. Thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to talking about these topics today. Let's go. I'm not Eli Monty. I'm pretty far left, and I'm a magic and monster enthusiast. So yeah.
Hey, thank you. Next, we have Fanatic, right? One of the greats, one of the living legends here on this channel, right? And on Twitch in general. But Fanatic, thanks for coming through. Thanks for joining us and disappearing for a second. Okay, Fanatic, please.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. Had to silence my phone. My name is Fanatic. Also Mr. Fanatic. F was spelled with a Q. You can find my music there. I'm really excited for these conversations today. I've gotten to a point where I just don't want to pull any punches anymore. I don't know that the takes will be that hot. It shouldn't be racist to any person who's actually intelligent. But, we got some idiots on the panel, so we'll see how they take it. But ultimately, I can't wait to get into these topics. I think it's all going to be good stuff, man. We should have a great time. Just don't interrupt me.
All right. And someone special. Very happy to see them. Been a long time. My man Sprouticus. Sprouticus is here. Dude, it's been so long. Sprouticus was deployed for a certain amount of time, right? And I don't know, we haven't just linked up since. And I just reached out, he said yes, and I was super pumped. Sprouticus, buddy, thank you for coming through.
Hey, not a problem. I'm the Sproticus. You can find me at Twitch and Twitter at the same name, the Sproticus. Used to be a conservative, got kicked off the right, turned to a constitutionalist conservative, got kicked off the right again, and so now I'm a pragmatic conservative. And so we'll see how far I go in this direction, how many times I get kicked off the right. But yeah, pragmatic conservative. So if you like my views, go ahead and check me out Twitch, Twitter, and that is at the Sproticus.
Oh, wow, Sproticus, dude. First of all, I don't know why you just don't come to the light. It's really that simple. But yeah, dude. I'm scrolling back. Trying to figure out when's the last time you were here.
It's been a minute. It's been a minute.
The last time you were here is October 3rd, 2021. Yeah, it's been a while. So very excited to have you back. The channel hasn't been the same without you, right? These other conservatives have just not been backing up. Lactoid, hey buddy. Thanks for coming through. Lactoid, it's really
glowing
great to have
comparison.
you.
Glowing comparison.
It's really nice to have you here, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Fine.
So I'm Lactoid Bane of Leftists, certified milk lawyer. I got kicked off the left. Now you can find me at Anti-Communism United on Discord and Twitch. And I look forward to destroying Eli for the second time today. So
You're full of shit and you know it.
oh, okay, all right.
All right. Next we have Leontes. All right, did I get it right this time? Please.
You're close, Leontes. Close
Leontes.
enough. We'll take it.
Thank you for stopping by here for the second time. Excited to have you. How are you?
I'm doing great, Prime. Thank you for having me on again and inviting me. There was a fly buzzing around my room earlier, okay? But don't worry, I took care of it. But if you see me ducking and dodging and hear any buzzing, that means there's another one, so just be prepared. But yeah, thanks for having me on again. Glad to be here, and it should be a good talk.
I fucking hate that. I keep my door closed all the goddamn time, so it's very rare that a fly gets in. And during my Twitch time, it's been extremely rare. But then it's all I can think of. Can't concentrate on fucking anything else. Kill this fucking fly. All right. Let's go to polite. No.
You could just call me Pan
right.
if it pains you, all right? If you
It
don't want to call me
does,
polite,
right?
you
But
can just say Pan.
problematic. Pan. It's the natural order of things. Man,
I'm a changed man. I don't understand. Look, I used to be too problematic. Now I'm just going to be super polite. Agree with everyone on the panel, no matter how ridiculous their opinion is. Just go along with it. Only say yes to what other people say. Should be exciting, but I don't want to make this intro too long. So yeah, good to be here.
Last but not least, right? Another great fixture of this community is back with us again. Our Lord and Savior, Lord and Savior, excuse me. Doobie is here. Doobie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
All right, let's just jump into it. The fight over the seemingly impending overturning of Roe v. Wade has put the spotlight on state attorney general races across the country. Democratic AG candidates in states with anti-abortion trigger laws are vowing not to enforce legislation. Is this fair? Attorney generals are supposed to be the top law enforcement of the land. And is this the abandonment of their duty? Would it be equally fair if a conservative AG decided not to enforce legislation protecting a minority group? So yeah, there's the fight is hot over this. The state attorney general races, which usually no one pays attention to, even though they're very important positions. Yeah, it's a big focus because you can decide, and I guess your local attorney generals as well. They'll decide if they'll actually prosecute a person if state's law or city's law or something says that they're in violation of whatever anti-abortion nonsense comes out of that locality. So this actually does matter. This will actually affect people's lives. But should it do your duty? Maybe, right? I don't know. So we'll go to Bam.
Yeah, I've been thinking over this all day. From the state of Georgia, so even in this article, it points directly to the ways it would impact me and people from my states due to policy that came out in 2019 with Brian Kemp. But yeah, I've went back and forth on this all day. Do we want to set a precedent where the people in these positions can just ignore federal policy? No. But their interests should directly lie with the people of their state. There is some level of combativeness back and forth that I think would be reasonably expected, because like I said, I wouldn't want a conservative to if the federal government instituted a law that I did consider dehumanizing, especially towards anybody in any group that I'm related to, would I want them to uphold the law just because of the law? No. So yeah, I think there's sticks in one hand, half a dozen in the other. There's great arguments both ways for this. I'm gonna come up with my position in real time, to be completely honest with you.
Thank you, Eli.
Yeah, certainly. So I am 100% against the whole overturning of Roe v. Wade. I think abortion rights need to be expanded, and I think that they need to be, especially if you're a person who wants to actually lower abortion rates, you need to actually expand access to things such as healthcare. Don't really mess with abortion, especially if you want to protect the lives of babies, because we'll get into that later. But I like what these people are saying, how they're not going to enforce these really bad, these really dogmatic, horrible anti-abortion laws that are not going to really lead to anything except for more women dying alongside babies, quote unquote. I think that's great. I think there's a level of nuance that needs to be had, and you need to be able to, with the second part of the question, asking, is this okay if they were to do the same thing for laws protecting minorities? I mean, obviously there's a difference between, a full-grown person and a tiny lima bean thing that's just a clump of cells, and that's all it is at that particular point. I don't see any problem with them saying that they're going to not enforce those laws. Of course, they're gonna say one thing and then get in power and do another thing. Most likely, that is something we need to keep in mind and need to be aware of course. But I think what they're doing right now, what they're taking a stand and siding with the people in this case and saying, no, I'm not going to enforce these laws. I think that's great. That's freaking base.
Fanatic.
Listen, if we want the society to actually continue to function, the idea that you're not going to do your job, it just starts becoming really, really problematic. We don't want to ever establish that precedent. I think it's really, really insane. And I would imagine if it was flipped, if it was something like that, liberal people really, really want, or the crazy leftists that they really are in favor of. And you had an attorney general saying things like, I'm just going to go ahead and be insubordinate. I'm just going to not actually uphold the office that I'm supposed to. I'm going to go ahead and just completely violate that. They'd be losing their freaking minds. I think whether you like Roe v. Wade or not, you have to recognize that for a long portion of time now, there's been a bunch of people who have recognized that even if we're against something, that we have to abide by whatever the Supreme Court has ruled out, because that's the way this country works. And it looks like the Supreme Court is now about to rule that, killing babies is probably not a good thing. So I think that's, I don't know what more you really want there. I think abortion is evil, and I'm glad that we're finally getting towards healing our land.
Rodicus.
Kind of thrown off by Fanatic to answer. I didn't expect Fanatic to be a pro-life individual. Just because he's on the left. But I'm surprised, so pleasantly surprised. But anyways, I think the AG should have to follow what he signed up for. Should have to follow the oath of his office. If he wanted to change the law, he should have become the governor. He should have become a senator. He should have become a congressman. And so with all that being said, I think that the AG should not be able to decide what laws he's going to enforce and what laws he's not going to enforce. If he wanted to change the laws, he should have got elected in a different office. Now, to address what Eli said, I'm surprised now that size is now a factor in how human you are. I guess midgets are less human than normally heighted people. I'm surprised that size is now a factor in how human you are. Surprising.
That's a misrepresentation, and you fucking know it.
Oh, I know it's a misrepresentation, but let's get it going.
Little people. That's the term. Okay.
That's the correct term, yeah.
Lactoid, please.
Yeah, so we all recognize attorney generals and district attorneys have a whole lot of power. We saw in the past states refuse to enforce certain federal laws, like in Colorado. State enforcement agencies refused to enforce drug laws, and they got off relatively unscathed because there was kind of a lack of political power from the federal executive. However, there are limits to the power of state and local authorities. Part of the prompt here is asking what would happen if a conservative did this. Well, we have history to this, right? We saw Kim Davis, the county clerk of Rowan County, Kentucky, who defied a U.S. federal order to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples. She got jailed for contempt, right? The court ordered her to do something. She went to jail because she didn't do it. Under this precedent, especially when you have AGs that are sworn to the Constitution of that state, does the Supreme Court of those states who criminalized abortion have the ability to hold these AGs in contempt of court and jail them? Potentially. I don't know if there's much precedent for that, but arguably there is. And also, there's a reasonable likelihood they will lose their jobs because they're in a political state where it's they're basically directly contradicting the will of the people on something that is just recently been declared a democratic issue. So, in the meantime, it's their call. But, if they want to put their freedom and jobs at risk to stand for their principles.
Leontes?
Yeah, so I don't really have any bias either way when it comes to abortion itself. I see it from both sides. I can understand both arguments. So just engaging with the topic of Attorney General enforcement itself, I see it pretty simply. If a candidate for Attorney General, makes it clear that they're running on this platform of non-enforcement, and it is within their responsibilities and duties and legal for them to not enforce certain state laws, and they're elected with that mandate, I have no problem, broadly speaking, when it comes to this issue, if they don't want to enforce a 100-year-old abortion ban. But if you do a quick Google search, you can find there is some precedent when it comes to gay marriage enforcement. There were a couple attorney generals who refused to defend bans on gay marriage. So there is some precedence, although they came with legal battles I'm sure Lactoid knows a lot about and he'll educate us on. But that's pretty much it.
Pan.
Yeah, so I'm relatively pro-choice, but there is a thing that has existed a long time in this country since the beginning. This isn't new. It's called prosecutorial discretion. Prosecutors and attorney generals are allowed to a certain extent, choose which type of cases they want to pursue. They do this for a variety of reasons. If we are going to talk about abortion, I think in the case of the states that have old laws that are unenforced, that are pre-Roe laws, I think it's completely reasonable to not enforce those laws. I mean, those laws haven't been enforced for the past 50 years. I don't see any reason why it should be unconstitutional for them to continue not enforcing those laws. As for the trigger laws, I don't know how far prosecutorial discretion actually goes here. Generally, prosecutorial discretion is only for smaller crimes like misdemeanors or low-level felonies. But for some statutes, like the Texas statute, some of the performing abortions is a first-degree felony, which is the same level as like murder, sexual abuse of children, stuff like that. So we probably don't want to live in a society where they have discretion on whether or not to pursue such serious and heinous crimes. So for those states, depending on what level of felony it is, I think the argument is a lot weaker for whether or not they should. One other thing I just wanted to point out quickly, this is very different from the Kim Davis scenario because equal protection is a constitutionally guaranteed right, and as of soon, abortion is not. There's a big difference in prosecutors ignoring a constitutionally protected right and prosecutors ignoring state laws, which, mind you, they are in charge of enforcing. They're allowed to do that, but they're not allowed to ignore constitutional protections on individuals. So I don't think it's exactly a fair comparison to say that. Also, Kim Davis was not an attorney general. She was just some random clerk who refused to give out marriage certificates. She wasn't prosecuting it. She wasn't doing anything. She literally just wasn't doing her job. So I don't think that's a great comparison. But yeah, I think that in some of the states, it makes sense to continue non-enforcement if the AG so chooses. In other states, we probably want to have, a government that they don't let prosecutors just decide whether or not they want to enforce murder laws and stuff like that.
Ruby.
Yeah, it seems pretty straightforward. So abortion seems like it's going to be a state issue from the foreseeable future. So if you're not comfortable with enforcing your state's abortion laws or laws surrounding abortion, then don't be the attorney general. If you can't handle that, then step down. If you're going to squat in the position and not do your job, then they should be fired or potentially put in jail. It seems pretty straightforward.
Okay. Panel.
To say that
so-
it's... Oh, you go.
I was just gonna say, yeah, like the rule is like you take an oath to like uphold the laws of your region and all that stuff. And if you're literally just going to go ahead and unilaterally decide like I'm just gonna do this, that sounds awful, right? Like we obviously recognize why that's problematic. I don't know how we would like, and yes, like it's not like being a clerk is not the same thing as an attorney general. In fact, I would say probably being the state attorney general is significantly more important. So like, yeah,
Yeah,
While-
this
while
is,
they
have
this is a
problems
single
with
person like
all-
unilaterally deciding to dismiss the will of the voters in the state. Like, why would we be
Well,
okay with that?
prosecutors do this all the time. They don't prosecute a bunch of cases that they could otherwise. Are you guys just opposed to all prosecutorial discretion? Like a lot of
Prosecutors-
times they don't.
that's not
pursue
the
it.
thing.
Like,
So
there's a lot of
prosecutors-
cases that don't
so-
get pursued.
So
Do you
give me
think
one
that-
second. Prosecutors don't prosecute crimes they don't think they can win in a court.
I'm not talking specifically about those. There are crimes that they know they could win, but it would be a waste of time and resources because the level's too petty or it's not important enough.
Okay,
or
those
the
are different
laws-
motivations. That's a total different thing. See, again, like if you want to start going into reasons of like, well, it seems like these things start becoming, they're not like efficacious. Then yes, that's true. But there's a total difference between that and like a political motivation towards not following, like not doing your job because you just don't.
This would be like
the way
saying that,
something
hey,
works.
I don't like speed limit laws. I'm just not going to enforce those laws anymore because I don't like them.
Okay, so
Like-
do
like
we?
Yeah,
why-
well, the
why would
state
you-
has those police powers. Yeah, like
Do we?
No, not the state. This is a single person deciding to do this.
You're talking,
Yes.
you're talking about a single person that was
Cops,
elected.
These people
Do we-
have a lot of discretion to do this stuff. This isn't new. Like, do you guys think the former AG who didn't enforce the law in the past 50 years should be put to jail for not enforcing
Wait,
the law?
what law in the last 50 years?
I'm sorry,
It,
so
it
there
wasn't
are
a
three-
law in the last 50 years.
Yeah, there's of the laws that we're talking about, 3 of them are anti-abortion laws that existed pro Roe v. Wade, and for the past, and they haven't been repealed or anything. They've just been unenforced for the past 50 years. And I
But they've
think
been
these-
unenforced because of Roe v. Wade. So then you knew that, like,
to- well, to
even
an
to push
extent,
these things,
they
if
chose
right
not to enforce
to
them
that
because
extent,
they
that's why they
get
didn't
over-
do so.
they
So
get
then let's not
overturned.
compare these things. Like, it's okay. So let's not obfuscate here. It's really simple.
Well, it's not.
If the laws are there, then we're expecting these people to prosecute these things. That's literally what their job is. They literally swore an oath for that.
Oh,
So, like, the idea that we're now trying to compare that to people not enforcing old laws that just haven't been, there's still laws on the books of things like where like anti-sodomy laws in different states and things like that. Like, no, we're not going to hold people accountable for those things because we obviously recognize that those laws were draconian. We obviously recognize that the Supreme Court like has certain protections for people and things like that. So then no, we wouldn't expect them to do that. That what you're talking about there is just a matter of like leaving in old mud laws that like just aren't being enforced, that don't
No,
matter
if-
Well,
anymore.
if no,
and so on and so
if
forth. That's
no
not the
new
same thing as
laws
this
were
right
presented,
now.
no
If you
new
wanna say
laws
that
have
a
been
law was
presented in the past
draconian,
50
I would
years. There's
say-
been no trigger laws in here,
I would
right?
say-
So we can't think.
What do you
we
mean?
can't say that
In Texas,
well,
they
I'm
created
talking
brand new
about-
trigger
sorry,
laws.
I'm talking about in the states. I agree in those states. I'm talking about specifically the states that haven't put a trigger law but do have pre-Roe laws. The laws have not been voted on or enforced in 50 years. I don't think you're able to say that without a shadow of a doubt the people of that state really want abortion to be illegal. It hasn't been an issue in 50 years.
And to
I don't
that,
understand what
would
you're
say-
saying.
Also,
What
like-
you're saying doesn't make any sense. I can't
I
follow
also
that.
want to say that Roe v. Wade, like I think it's what the decision in America right now is like 30%. Like 70% of people are like, don't do this, don't fuck with this, and 30% of the people are insane and are like, yeah, repeal it. So
That's not even close.
No,
That's not
I
even
don't
close
think-
to percentages.
Yeah, I think
that's
it's
a
like
particular-
52-45. I
don't
think
think
the
that's a
70-30 is
particularly
like
good
equally
argument
weighted.
because
I think
if-
you're comparing the number of pro-lifers to pro-choicers, but when it comes down to like the actual like Roe v. Wade, I'm pretty sure the United States, the citizens of the United States, are split 70-30. 70%.
Ellie, appealing to democracy
So-
doesn't work here, though,
I'm-
right?
so-
Because what the
30%.
I'm gonna object. I'm gonna object based on hearsay until you come up with the source that you
I'm
that
not done
states
yet. I'm
the
not done
numbers
yet.
you have.
I'm not done yet.
Hearsay.
30% believe
Yep,
that
hearsay.
what's going on is stupid, and it is. So the thing is, I think that these attorney generals that are standing by the people, standing by the voices of the people, and are saying, no, I'm not going to enforce these laws. That's fucking based as shit. Okay. Also, I guess that a lot of people on this panel want to fight within the system, but I don't think it's gonna really get us anywhere. We need to establish and codify Roe v. Wade and a woman's right to an abortion. That is what needs to happen in this country.
How do you do that?
Nothing good has
Not
ever
within the
happened
system.
from
You're
saying states' rights. And
wait, hold
saying
on.
that
You just complained that we're talking about working within the system. They say we need to codify something. That's literally within the system.
well,
So what do you?
also,
So
states'
what
rights
what
is
outside of the
Well,
system
what I
is
mean- what I
suggesting
mean
that we
is
do?
just fan
Sorry,
words.
okay. You know what, Doobie?
Like
Yeah,
what?
Doobie. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Technically, yeah, you caught me there. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Yes. But I was mainly trying to. I guess I should have expanded on what I was saying then. I think there's a sentiment here on this panel by some people that that we need to abide by the system and what's going on, especially our
By the law?
government officials. But yeah, the law. But in many cases, just because something is law, A, does not mean it's correct, and B, does not necessarily mean that it needs to be enforced. I'm sorry, but I think when people like the attorney generals are putting their foot down and saying no, that's amazing. That's awesome. We need more people like that.
I don't necessarily agree with that. Hold on. I don't necessarily agree with that, Monty. Like I said, I think saying that's really easy. I think saying that is a super a way oversimplification of the issue. But I'm going to speak specifically to Fanatic here. I do believe you yourself also hold a threshold on some level of pushback. Like I don't think you say the law is a law. Like for example, if there was a rollback of the 13th, I'm saying like if there was a rollback of the 13th Amendment, like I don't think you would say, like I don't think you would necessarily mean like okay, it's a bad thing for someone to say that hold on, this isn't okay. Like so there must be some threshold.
I mean, I don't know. It seems like well, I don't know. I guess if I have to start entertaining that, like the Supreme Court starts going hard body, anti-constitutional, and being really, really, really like evil in that way, then yeah, would I probably be a little bit more like on the side of like, hey, something needs to happen? Like, I mean, like yes, would I be up for like some sort of like uprising or resistance or things like that? Then yeah, I would probably say so. But that's not what's happening here. Number one, that's not what's happening here. Number one, and then number two, if you look at the idea, if you look at the idea of like, obviously we've seen like in the past state attorney generals like violating like things that like the Supreme Court passed down. For example, when we had Brown versus the Board of Education, and so then it was like, hey, no, you guys have to be able to integrate and so on and so forth. It literally took the National Guard being pushed down there because some people were saying outright, I'm not going to do it. I don't care what the law is, and so on and so forth. So we obviously recognize that if we believe that the Constitution is supposed to be upheld, we believe that the Supreme Court is supposed to be pushing forth these ideas, we literally don't want to get to the point where we're starting a precedent that like, if it's just a law that you kind of don't like, you can just go ahead and do without it like that.
I don't even know why Eli is bringing up polling. This is a ruling based off the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court was meant to be away from polling. That's why they have lifetime appointments. It was not meant to follow the will of the people. They're meant to follow what the Constitution says. Now, the people in Congress and the Senate are meant to follow the will of the people, and if the will of the people is to have these abortion rights, then they should be codified, and there should be a constitutional amendment to allow it. Now, with that being said, the Supreme Court is not meant to follow that. They're meant to follow the Constitution, and the Constitution clearly does not support Roe v. Wade. It's not very dangerous. It's not very dangerous. Congress and Senate, Congress and the Senate, the President, Congress and the Senate, Congress, Senate, the President.
Let's finish, please.
Okay.
The Congress, the Senate, and the presidency can add a constitutional amendment and change the Constitution. It is not up to the Supreme Court to change the Constitution.
I also want to add on to that a little bit.
Wasn't Roe v. Wade like added to, you know, or what? Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't it added to the Constitution? I could be wrong.
No, it was not added to the Constitution. It was not codified. No.
It was not. Yeah, it wasn't codified, but wasn't it like?
It was not added to the Constitution.
No,
No.
in the Constitution at all. There's no.
Roe v. Wade was that
was
Roe v.
sort
Wade
of.
was based off of the whole premise and establishment of Roe v. Wade was based off of the 14th Amendment in the Constitution that guarantees, I believe, what was it, privacy and also liberty.
Even people,
Eli, don't do this. No, that's not the way it works. It's really, really simple. Look, the way that the Supreme Court does is they interpret. I got you. Look it up. Do whatever the frick you got to do. You probably should have done that research before you got into this conversation. The purpose of the Supreme Court, the purpose of the Supreme Court. This is a conversation. This is something you should have known long before. You've been in enough of these political panels. You should understand how the freaking Supreme Court works. The purpose of the Supreme Court. The purpose of the Supreme Court. Stop interjecting. So I have to keep sunning you on your stupidity. And then I'll go on with my point. Shut up while I'm talking. Shut up while I'm talking, and then I'll finish my point, and then that way I wouldn't have to do that. If you didn't interject, I would have moved on. So now that I will, go ahead and shut your mouth while I finish. So anyway, the whole purpose of the Supreme Court is that the whole purpose of the Supreme Court is that they're supposed to be interpreting the Constitution through laws. And once they do so, then those laws become whatever. They're not amending the Constitution. They're not like adding things to the Constitution. They're just creating and establishing like federal law or like the highest law. And then all other laws are supposed to be interpreted downstream from those laws. That's what the whole purpose of the Supreme Court is. And that's what happened with Roe v. Wade.
No, but again,
Even
like, if we
Even-
go
They
by
sort of
this,
add
if we go
to
by
it.
this logic, if we go by this logic of like, oh, it wasn't originally in the Constitution, so we can go ahead and repeal it, then we could also see Black people becoming 3/5 human again, because that at one point was in the Constitution. I think it still is.
No, I mean, We
Wait,
have
what the
14th
fuck?
Amendment. That
No,
covers
Eli, no.
all this stuff.
Eli, again, I think you're intentionally good. No,
Eli,
this
have
is
you read the Constitution?
Wait.
Seriously, have you read the Constitution recently?
It's okay.
Not
So,
recently,
to add on to this, even when Roe v. Wade was decided, there were many legal scholars that argued that Roe v. Wade was decided on very shaky grounds. It wasn't a widespread opinion that Roe v. Wade was instantaneously like, oh yeah, this is definitely constitutional because this, and this. No, Roe v. Wade was decided on very shaky grounds. The 14th Amendment is extremely shaky grounds for Roe v. Wade.
It is. It's
Why?
very fair. Like,
Why is it extremely shaky?
because branching from privacy all the way to the right to an abortion is like even like I said, I'm pro-choice, but I believe that like going from privacy to abortion is an extreme stretch.
It's not. It's
particular.
not. It's,
wait, let me tell you why. Let me tell you particularly why. It is particular. I'm trying. Let me explain it. It's extreme, particularly because of how divisive the issue was. If like you may have a stronger standing if the country was 97% like in favor of pro-choice, but because the country is somewhere around 50-50. No, wait.
It's nearly 70.
It's not, though.
No, I'm
No.
saying that. It's not 70.
It's not 70.
As to whether or not the government should be interfering or overturning Roe v. Wade.
No,
70% of the country doesn't want that. 30% of the country does.
Completely. That's what it's. I looked up what you're saying.
Hold up.
There's
the Supreme
70%
Court is
that
not
says
an
that.
independent. Go ahead. You can.
I just want to clarify that point. 70%. The 7% number is that don't believe that it should be overturned completely, meaning that there's some nuances in there that someone may feel in favor of, but the issues they have aren't with the abortion piece. Like they're saying that there should be some level of right to privacy, but abortion isn't like that qualifier. It doesn't meet that threshold.
Also, if you're
specifically because the Supreme Court isn't meant to make decisions like this from the bench, because it seems to be so divisive throughout the country. Again, I'm pro-choice,
I don't see how that debunks the right to a woman's right to privacy and do with her body as she sees fit.
Because the question we haven't defined.
The body is not the baby's body is not the woman's body. The baby's body is not the woman's body.
It's inside of her body.
That's the debate, though. If
it's inside of her, it might be inside of her body, but it's not her body, and so that's the law. That's what the law is around. It's around whether or not she can terminate that body that is not her body.
Okay, but like, so let me ask you then, Fanatic. I want to ask you specifically. So if I need your kidney, can I come take your kidney because you're the only one who matches me? Can I come take that kidney?
That's his person. Again,
That's a
different conversation.
No, it's fine. It's okay. I'll answer the question. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't have the right to come take my kidney for no reason.
So why is it that a baby can take a woman's uterus? Why can a baby use a woman's uterus without her consent?
Well, because she consented by her own actions by creating a situation where the baby was born.
So fanatic, do you believe that we consent to the consequences of our actions when we do things?
Yes, all the time.
So
what?
So when you get into a car, or
when you drunk drive.
Let's not even do that. Let's say you're walking down the street at night, right? Do you consent because you're doing the action of walking down the street? Do you consent to people just, I don't know, pulling up in a car, jumping out and beating the shit out of you? Do you consent to that?
I'm not entertaining that question. It's the stupidest thing, and it has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
I think a more important thing, Fanatic,
I'm not answering that question. That's stupid, and it's beneath me. If that's your line of logic, I tried my best to let you go, and that's so stupid. I saw where your brain was going or where it wasn't going, and I'm not doing it. Go ahead, you entertain someone else.
Eli, you're
an idiot.
Eli, wait a minute. Eli, this isn't the thing that matters. The only thing that matters.
You consent to the consequences of your actions. Then I guess you consented to getting beat up when you're walking down the street.
Wait,
Eli, the only thing that hold on. So just so we don't go 30 minutes into this conversation.
Oh God.
The only thing that matters is that if someone believes if there's a dispute on whether the thing inside the woman's body is a human, then that human has the same right she does. But I'm saying, but it doesn't. But I'm saying people do. It's not. You're just gonna say
that's the thing.
But
because she had sex, or and we're
again, you're just gonna make your argument. But I'm saying that it's an argument. It's not a fact. This is what I'm saying. We don't need to have this conversation. This isn't what the debate is. No, that's the point. The point is if that thing is a human, if someone believes that that's a human, then that thing has rights to not die.
If you're gonna make the argument that because it's a human, it now has right to her bodily organs. Guess what, bro? I'm coming for your kidney. I'm coming for your kidney tomorrow. I'm coming for it
But
tomorrow.
bam, literally don't entertain that any further. You know how stupid that is, and everyone else here does.
And
Don't
this has
entertain
nothing
that.
to do with
That's
being
just plain
pro-life or
stupid.
pro-choice.
Okay.
Don't waste your energy.
This is a debate.
Move on.
Oh,
Move
okay,
on.
okay.
Yeah,
So we got.
think the more
I want to hear
important
from
point-
from Pan, and then Doobie, and then Lactoid, our resident lawyer. Then Leontis.
So first, I want to say, please stop appealing to like democracy and polls when talking about constitutional rights. The reason, like people like me, the overturning of Roe v. Wade is frustrating is because it allows the majority to vote on abortion's legality. Right. The thing that we're against here is the states where there is a majority of people. So we can't appeal to democracy or the majority, because those of us who want Roe v. Wade codified, that's exactly what we're trying to prevent. Right. Because we think it's a right that shouldn't be decided by democracy. So I don't think you can use the this percent of Americans, want abortion as a good talking point here. Second of all,
I think that's
Fanatic,
incredibly stupid, but okay.
how is that incredibly stupid?
Because we should be listening to the voices of the people. See, this is why.
Yeah,
so many
exactly.
people
Okay, well,
are
the
so-
voices of the people in Texas want to make abortion illegal.
Okay, but they're not
Okay,
the majority.
so-
They're not everybody.
They are in
They are for their
Texas.
state.
Okay, but like, I don't think this should be a states' rights issue. I
Why?
think it should be
That's an opinion.
Because
And that's your opinion. We
That's the
disagree.
point.
states'
We
rights
disagree.
Has never been used to defend something good. Almost never. Okay. Last time I remember states' rights, it was the fucking Civil War. All right.
Marijuana.
There
Marijuana.
and a lot of states right there.
All right. Okay. Hey. No. I got you. Hey, Eli. Let's see this. Do you think? I got you. It's okay.
Point, Fanatic. I don't know if I want to entertain that point.
Okay, all right, then if that's fine, then I'm just gonna mute you and I won't talk to you any further. Or you can actually be an adult. I entertained your dull and ridiculous point until it seemed like it didn't make any sense anymore. I did that. I gave you that. But if you want to start now from the very beginning, just don't talk to me. We can do that if you would like. Or you can be an adult and actually have the conversation. So then the question becomes, do you think that it would make sense, for example, Colorado, like deciding as a state that they didn't want to criminalize marijuana? Do you think that they had a right to do that?
I mean, I guess, but again, that doesn't debunk my point of
Okay, no, all right. Hey, okay, good. So that's an example. That's an example. So then that's an example of a state doing something good, right? Because you said states never did use their rights to defend something good, but here in this case, this is something good that states actually defended. So you're just wrong. Admit you're wrong.
Okay.
Every progressive issue started as a state issue.
Whoa! Stop!
Women's right to vote started as a state issue.
Stop! Pan, I'm really gonna go to you. Don't eat the dog. I'm literally gonna do it. Right. So we'll go to Pan. Fanatic, adjust your gain. Your gain is a little too loud, buddy. And it's kind of blowing out your mic. But
I'll fix it.
Yeah, no problem. So we'll go to Pan. Finish up your point. Then Doobie, Lactoid, Leontis, and Spartacus.
Yeah, I just want to say there's so many things that states have taken the initiative on: drug decriminalization, women's right to vote, gay marriage, all of this
All
stuff.
right, I'll take
like-
it then. I'll take the fall on that one. That was my bad. Maybe I spoke too out of. Maybe I was wrong. All right, I'll take the fall on that one.
All right.
Okay. Let's go to my man Doobie.
Yeah, I think it's kind of strange to say that we shouldn't appeal to democracy, right? Given that if abortion is like a state's issue, then that's exactly what you would need to appeal to, right? If you don't like the laws that are in place right now, all these states have a process they can go through to have those laws voted on and changed if that needs to happen. Right? So just go through the process. Like,
Well,
I don't know. It seems weird to say, hey, I don't like this right now. Fuck the process. I'm not going to go through the process. I just don't want to enforce this because I feel like it shouldn't be that way. In a state like Michigan, for example, where one of these attorney generals is talking about not enforcing these laws, like almost half the state doesn't agree with abortion. It's pro-life, right? So like it doesn't make sense to just say, hey, I disagree. I'm not going to go through the process. I'm just not going to enforce this law. Just go through the fucking process.
I don't think
it should be
anyone's
federal.
saying that, though. I mean, what I said was we don't want to... Individual rights are not up to a majority vote. We can't vote on whether or not we want to have slaves again, because even if 90% of Americans wanted to have slaves again,
that's a different argument, though.
Like it's not if you think abortion is.
Wait, hold on. But okay,
right.
wait, hold on. So I understand that, but again, there's a process for that too. Go through the process to amend the Constitution and take it out of the state's hands. Right?
Oh,
That's
agree with
another
that.
thing that you should be advocating for. Don't just say, hey,
Incredibly hard
fuck
to do that,
democracy.
though. It isn't-
But
it is
yeah, of
incredibly
course
hard
it's
to do.
hard. But given that Eli and other people on here are saying that, hey, it's 70-30 You know,
I don't use that argument.
pro-choice or whatever, which I don't think is true, by the way. But if that were the case, then hey, it shouldn't be that hard to get each of the states to go through the process and to ratify a new amendment to the Constitution, right? If that's what you want to do. Right? But don't just say, hey, it's a
constitutional convention.
The process,
Constitutional convention.
Sorry, to be finished.
The process isn't convenient. It's going to take too long. I don't agree with the laws, so fuck democracy. I'm just not going to do it. That seems really stupid.
Yeah, well, I was saying that in regards to whether or not I think it's moral to have abortion overturned and stuff. I agree that.
I don't think anybody here's talking about the morality of it.
Well, we were actually talking about it. Like that's why I addressed the claim that we shouldn't be appealing to democracy when democracy is the thing that we're opposing here because we're trying to support an individual right. Now, I agree. Everything you said about that. Everything you said.
It's not an individual right. It's not. It was. So wait 1 second. Wait 1 second. So if the Supreme Court is to follow with the leaked decision, it was a draft one, right? So if they're to follow that, then the Supreme Court would essentially be saying that abortion is not an individual right. Which, wait. Can you give me a second? Thank you. So it's not an individual right that's protected by the Constitution, which is the Supreme Court's job. The Supreme Court's job is to tell governments what is protected by the Constitution and what is not protected by the Constitution. Like I said, when Roe v. Wade was decided, even the people during the time, like the scholars during the time, said that it was decided on very shaky grounds. That it wasn't, Roe v. Wade was not decided on solid ground. And now we've come to a time where the Congress has not ratified it, Senate has not ratified it, and the President has not ratified it. And then the states have not convened or had a constitutional convention to add more amendments to the Constitution. So therefore, the Supreme Court is well within their rights to say this is not a constitutional right, and you can have a constitutional convention, you can have an amendment passed through Congress and Senate and the presidency and get it amended into the Constitution, but it's going to come down to that. The Supreme Court is well within the rights to determine what is and isn't constitutionally a right.
Notice how I didn't say it was a constitutional right. I said it was an individual right. I don't believe rights come from government. Yes, everything you're saying is right. If we want abortion to be a right in America, we have to have a constitutional amendment. We have to do something like that.
Lactoid. Oh my God, stop it. Lactoid.
Okay, I got 3 points real quick. I'll make it quick. Eli, you were talking about, I think obviously you and everybody accepts that you are responsible for at least the outcome of some of your actions. I think the question is whether or not the consequence is foreseeable. There's a reasonable expectation that your action will lead to this. I don't think that just walking outside, there's a reasonable expectation that a van's going to pull up and like a bunch of people are going to come out and beat the shit out of you as a consequence of you leaving the house. Contrast that.
Understand the question? Do you not understand that I can?
Hold on, let him get his points off. Like, hold on, Monty. Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm not let somebody.
Lactoid's been waiting very patiently.
Okay, fine.
The most patiently.
And I use your hypothetical, so I don't know why you think I'm misrepresenting you when I'm literally using the hypothetical of a van pulling up and beating somebody up for going outside. Contrast this with like, is there a reasonable expectation that if you're having unprotected sex, you're going to get pregnant? I mean, I think that there is a much more reasonable expectation there. And there's plenty of things that we can agree, like, is there a reasonable expectation that if you get fucking blasted drunk behind the wheel and like, maybe you're not going to drive like within like the safe parameters that we all agree that you should have when you drive a vehicle. Even you agree that some people should be responsible for the consequences of irresponsible actions, right? And the fact that you're denying this concept is bizarre.
Denying the concept of being responsible for actions. So you think?
So that's what you were grilling Fanatic on. You were saying, Fanatic, do you think people should be responsible for the consequences of their actions?
No, that's not what I said. I said, do you think people consent to the results, to the consequences necessarily of their actions? I did not say that people should not be having to take responsibility, because I do think that making that decision to become a mother or get an abortion is someone taking responsibility and taking charge of their situation.
Okay, so I'll move on to the second point.
That's not the only two.
I think it's clear that doesn't actually address like the point of what I was saying. At the very beginning of this polite pan, you brought up how this is like it's completely different when it comes to the actual topic of the discussion, state AGs. I don't know. Arguably, if you have a state constitution protecting right and then protecting life and then defining life as beginning at conception, you could make the argument that AGs like have a legal and district attorneys have a legal responsibility to prosecute people who engage in abortion, right? Because at that point, what would be the difference between a state AG, not being arrested for not prosecuting killers of Black people and AGs not also being prosecuted for going after, killers of fetuses, or I guess what pro-life people would refer to as the unborn. I think that very well could be like a situation there where state AGs, it's the same logic, as you put forward, like if they're violating a constitutionally protected right guaranteed by that state, which they have sworn an oath to, potentially that SCOTUS could come after them and put them in jail.
I could be wrong. Do the 3 states that I've talked about, so Arizona, West Virginia, and I forget the last one, do they have a provision saying that at conception you are a legal person that has, personhood and legal rights? Because I'm not aware of any. I could be wrong. I don't know every state's constitution, but I'm pretty sure that's definitely not in there.
Right, and it may not be specifically in there. I agree with you.
Okay,
But I think it very well could be gleaned from it, considering the fact that a lot of these states, I'm pretty sure all of them, make it murder if you kill a fetus and you're not the mother, right? And so if they already have these laws in the books, I think it could be gleaned from like constitutional interpretation. The last thing, I'm sorry, I know I'm kind of geshouting a little bit, but I made a list here. The last thing I want to point out real quick is when people are talking about Roe v. Wade and why it's complete trash. I went off a little bit about this on a different debate, so I'll keep it very short. But I'm hearing a lot of the same talking points, right? The position that I think all reasonable people should hold is that originalism is the only rational judicial philosophy. Because we live in a democracy, we should look at the intent of the people who drafted the laws when we look at what the laws do. Why were those laws made, right? And so, hold on. So because we live in a democracy, right? Why those laws in the books, like what were they intended to do, right? The 14th Amendment, when you apply that to abortion,
hey, whoa, hey, you gotta let him finish. The Lactoid been waiting so patiently.
Okay.
When you apply the 14th Amendment to abortion, you are in Roe v. Wade, which they did under the Due Process Clause, you are completely ignoring the historical record, and you are completely ignoring the people who made the law. That's why it's shaky. The exact same lawmakers in 1868, when they were drafting the 14th Amendment, they were also illegalizing abortion in all their respective states. Abortion was actually entirely criminalized in the United States by the early 1900s, and this process was beginning throughout following 1850, all the way throughout the drafting of the 14th Amendment. Right, the exact same politicians were criminalizing abortion while they were passing the 14th Amendment. How can you possibly think that they meant for the 14th Amendment to apply to abortion when, at the same time they were drafting the 14th Amendment, were criminalizing abortion? It makes no sense.
I disagree with the originalism. Well, I think he was just making this point off generally, but I disagree with the argument of originalism, and of course, obviously, this is an opinion. But like the concept of dealing with originalism, like if we understand the people who like deal with legislation, who wrote the Constitution, are human beings, I think it would be unreasonable to expect that they could account for their intentions were based, like taking what they say taking what they say verbatim, because I don't think they can account for things that exist today. So, for example, wait a minute, just let me finish. Let me just finish points, and then you can call me stupid. Just call me stupid in 20 seconds, bro. I know you. Very great.
I'm not trying to call you stupid. I just think you're smarter than that. You don't have to keep going, but go ahead.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying that like we have a right to bear arms. Cool. Second Amendment. I like guns. Guns are cool. I don't believe that it would be I don't believe it's a reasonable interpretation due to originalism to say that like every individual should be able to own a nuke, because like I don't think that they were able to intend the possibility of like a weapon that could kill that many people at a time. So it's weird to assume that that's what they intended.
So can I quickly agree? Just really quickly, I just want to agree with that. Yeah, you're right. When we're talking about a nuclear weapon, like a brand new situation, for sure, right? The problem is in 1868, when the 14th Amendment was drafted, the state legislators were outlawing abortion. The exact same thing that Roe v. Wade dealt with. Like, it's the same policy. It's not like a new thing. It's not like a nuke. It's like something that they very well knew what it was.
Bam, I think
so
way of basically saying the fact that you don't believe in originalism, that originalism has limited utility. I was talking.
Yeah, but Prime is saying something.
Yeah, Prime, we can't hear anything.
Yeah, Prime, you got
sorry, that's my fault. There was a dog barking. I apologize. So Leontis, Fanatic finished your point. Then we're gonna go to Leontis and Spartacus. Okay.
Okay, Bam. What you were saying basically was that like you feel like originalism has limited utility, which obviously it does. Like nothing is going to cover literally everything, but like I know that you have to think about like like, it's one thing to be able to say that this thing won't cover everything. It's another thing to be able to say it has no value. And clearly, the
Okay.
idea that we should be taking the laws into consideration and what they were intending at the time when they were drafted makes all the sense in the world, right? Like, you have to just agree with that. Even if it says, like, when with brand new technology, for example, free speech and things like that, or with the internet or chat rooms or message boards, like, well, no, I don't know if they could have had that in mind, right? But that's why it wouldn't be like, you couldn't make an appeal to originalism. You can only make an appeal towards originalism with things that actually made sense, that you can think the framers actually had in mind at the time.
That's fair.
Let's go to Leontis, who's been also waiting very kindly, and
Thank
Sproutacus, and then Eli. Eli, we're gonna give you the floor. We're gonna give it all to you, Eli. I promise you. Leontis, please.
Right. So, just to be crystal clear, the Supreme Court is not outlawing abortion. Pretty much what they're doing is passing it back to the states so they can make their own legislation. And I just wanted to make that clear because some people, I don't know, they might have misspoke or they made it seem as though it was being outlawed. I just wanted to make that clear. But I also have a couple questions for people who are against abortion. You know, we have law enforcement officers who regularly exercise discretion when it comes to applying the law, whether it's a police officer refusing to ticket someone for a traffic violation or underage drinking, or a prosecutor who doesn't charge someone with a drug crime. I'm just curious what they, what justification they have or what they think about, why it would be wrong for a attorney general to exercise similar, discretion when it comes to applying the law in this case or in any other case.
It's because a lot of these things we expect, like, there is discretion, like the discretion is baked into the laws in a lot of situations, but like, that's not the same thing as I'm gonna die here, pretty sure. Free. Okay, I made it. Okay, yeah, that's not the same thing as when in situations where like you're under an oath and we're expecting you to like cover up. We're expecting you to like fulfill your duty. There's a one thing for you to say, hey, I will choose like what to prosecute. It's another thing to say, I'm just literally not going to do my job. And that's what these people are literally vowing to do in lieu of their vows. And that just seems, those things are not the same, right?
Right. And I guess to respond to that, I mean, they're running on this issue and they're getting elected democratically. So what's wrong with them fulfilling that campaign promise as long as they're legally allowed to do so?
Well, the campaign promise shouldn't be allowed to be able to be done in the first place. And again, like, whether or not, like, pointing out, like, hey, well, they're doing this thing that you've just given good moral reasons that they shouldn't do, and they're doing it and it's working to their benefit. That doesn't change, like, the original, like, prescription that this is not something that we want to normalize and should be okay, right?
Sure, that's acceptable answer, but I guess it just didn't, reach, the discretion is applied throughout, many facets of law enforcement, and that's if they choose not to and it's within their purview, then I don't see a problem with it.
Leontis, I actually agree. Like, you make a great point when you say, well, if they're elected, right? I mean, and not all states they are elected. In some states they're appointed, right? But in the states where they are elected, right? Well,
Sprout, we got a little air conditioning sound or something. Could you mute yourself, please, Sprout?
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead, back to it.
So, like, in the states where they are elected, the people elected them to not enforce that policy, so that's democracy. To some extent, you're right. Really the only question would be, if the Supreme Court of that state determined it to be unconstitutional to be following that policy. We're in very uncharted territory right now, right? A lot of this is very new. And to be honest with you, I'm very skeptical of the idea that the same states that are like super pro-life that are criminalizing this are also going to elect a state AG that is not going to enforce this. So I don't know, like, in the long run, if this is actually going to be super important, right? Because, there's no way like Tennessee or Texas or Mississippi, if you got a state AG up there, it's like, I'm not going to enforce the abortion ban. Like, they're not going to get elected. Like, how could they get elected? It makes no sense.
I don't know. Tennessee is probably not. I think Georgia's really. I legitimately have no idea what's going to happen, just because of the population change.
Right, but like, the idea is, if they have the power, they have the political power to elect a state AG that would ignore the law. Maybe this isn't always true, but like, presumptively, you would assume that they would have the power to just change the law, right? They could just,
not necessarily, because that's dealing with your legislator, and that's something that like the average citizen may not know well enough to like how to decipher between these people. But they can decide that like, oh, this is the one person I need to get in power that controls this. You can kind of galvanize people to vote for one person, not
Yeah,
30.
that might be true. Yeah.
I think they can get elected because in many Lactoid, because they're not enforcing something, or they're choosing to stand by, in this case, what the people want, which is they don't want these draconian and like very authoritarian laws to be enforced on people who have uteruses. So I think that could get them elected. I think it's
You're talking about AGs. The AGs are elected by the same people that elect the congressmen and the senators of each state and the governors of each state. You're talking at a state level now. These AGs were elected by the same people. If they wanted this to happen, then they're going to let people. They are going to go in there and make it happen. And so saying that because they elected an AG, they must just want the AG to follow whatever the fuck they want. That's not the AG's job. The AG's job is to be able to prosecute laws.
Spartacus was saying that they wouldn't get elected, but I think in this case, again, I think they will get elected because across the nation, people don't want this.
You're mistaking national stats for state stats.
Well, actually, hold on. I think
maybe there's an argument there.
Sure. Wait. I think, but
in many cases,
I think Eli. I think Eli, you may have actually like stumbled upon like an actually really interesting point, which is some people are just single issue voters, and and a lot of people aren't, right? So like I am not going to vote Democrat, even though like I'm somewhat pro-choice because of the other issues. But when we're talking about like a state AG, where like the only thing I'm really worried about is like that they're going to have an impact is just like the pro-life, pro-choice decision. Like maybe I might vote red in all my legislatures, but then only vote blue on my state AG because I know what effect that's going to have. That could be the case as well. And there's also probably a lot of Dems, especially the Hispanic community, that vote blue very consistently, but are overwhelmingly pro-life. Right, and so they also might be voting Republican on every AG and then vote blue in the legislature. So that is going to be a super interesting state battle that's going to be coming up.
Definitely.
I was going to say that because like 45% of
finish that point, and then I want to go to Spartacus.
I was gonna say, that was one of the first things I thought about, like the single issue voters, and like 45% of Republican women, I think, are still pro-choice. Like I think Tommy Lauren, she was like openly pro-choice. Like even like high level people still are kind of on the fence with this issue. And on the priorities, I think I've seen something that said like on the priorities of reasons people vote certain ways, like 25% of them had like abortion wasn't their number one issue, but it was within their like top 2 or 3. Which now they're knowing that like, oh, okay, like it was protected before, so I didn't have to care about it. But now that it may not be protected, it may climb up the priority list. But yeah, that was it.
I think that.
Sorry. We got to go to Sprout, and then after that, it's all you, Eli.
So to bring this up, this topic was about the AG and AG saying they weren't going to follow states' laws. Now, with this being said, according to 28 U.S. Code 544. Each United States attorney, assistant United States attorney, and attorney appointed under Section 543 of this title, which again is AG's, before taking office, shall take an oath to execute faithfully his duties. Now, when you say faithfully, that means to execute faithfully due to the laws of the state. We're talking about a state AG. This would be someone who is not following up with the oath of office. And anyone that would vote for an AG just based off the fact that they would not prosecute abortion cases is literally trying to elect someone that just is not going to follow the oath of office, which I deem is wrong. If you want abortion to exist in your state, you elect the lawmakers that are going to make it exist in your state. You don't elect the AG. This is just going to decline to prosecute. And if you do, it's going to come back to haunt you in the long run. Eventually there will be a different AG in there. And eventually the AG will decide to prosecute and you'll be fucked in the long run. So.
Okay. Eli, it's your turn completely.
I got a question for you, Spartacus. So in that case, right, if we're going to say, that we want them to, honor their oath and enforce the laws that they have to enforce. Do you think that there is a line that we can draw as to like what laws get enforced, or is it just absolutely enforce every law like 100%? Or do you think in some cases there need to be certain caveats and we need to have some sort of understanding like, hey, some of these laws that you're having to enforce are pretty shitty and actively make the lives of other people worse, or just go ahead. Like I'll let you go
See,
ahead.
this is a question that's gonna be fucked whichever way I answer. So it's gonna be quite a bit of a longer answer. In Indiana, it's illegal to play cards on Sunday. That is not enforced whatsoever. It's also a very excuse me. It's also a very, very, very old law. It's a law that's just no longer enforced. It would take more effort to take the law off the books than to just not enforce it. Now, with that being said, you're talking about a brand new law that's just going to go on the books for most states. You're talking about a brand new law. If an AG just decides that they disagree with the brand new law and decide not to prosecute it, I see that as wrong.
So you see it. So you think that. So you think it's. I'm trying to see how I want to ask this question. So let's say we have a law that basically says that all white men have to get vasectomies. You're fine with these with the AGs.
Really great
enforcing
law.
that law.
Well, I think that law would be immediately challenged, and I think it'd go to the courts, and the courts would put it.
Do you think that they should enforce that law?
If the courts agree with it, sure, but I know the courts wouldn't agree with that, so that's fine.
Wait, real quick, Monty. Wouldn't you agree that like you just flip your scenario and you can make the exact same argument against you, right? Like, what if you have what if you have a law that says we're not like the law is like we're not going to force you to get vasectomies, and like then the AG like doesn't like starts forcing people to get vasectomies. Like I don't know. I feel like you could just simply
that wasn't my question. Like to it. My question was, do you think that they should enforce every single law? I'm trying to get people to think that maybe in some cases, and I saw that it was kind of working with Spartacus a little bit there, when you put people in the shoes of actually being the one of the person who's going to be affected by certain laws being enforced, then all of a sudden the narrative starts to shift. It didn't affect me. I just understood that you were asking a very loaded question, and so I gave a very loaded response.
Because you're under the assumption that the law is bad for someone who is pro-life. But that's what I'm saying. That's an opinion.
I'm just trying to get you guys to see differently about this whole subject.
You guys are using the wrong word. It's not a loaded question. He's begging the question. You're begging the question when you assume when you say the question, hey, if this thing that we already know is really, really, really bad, then would you be okay with it? And that's the whole point. That's literally the entire underlying argument. It's about like, do we just think that the system makes all the sense in the world?
Because
yes,
right now
we all have our moral prescriptions. If you
your guys, dare I say, the consistency of the people on this panel, and
by
whether or
begging
not
the question.
Let me put this one.
Let me
rephrase my answer. I think if I rephrase my answer, people are going to be able to come to like a more. So I believe in the way our government works. And so I don't think that law would ever be enforced because of courts. There would be an immediate legal challenge. The court. Wait. Can you give me a fucking second, and I'll get to what you're going to ask, because you're going to say, wait, why? So because the courts would immediately put a pause on it as the court looked at the case, and then the court would immediately decline that case. The court would immediately say, no, this is unconstitutional, and kick the law away.
So why do you think that is?
Because it's racist.
Wait, because what's race? Oh, the white man law. Oh, I mean,
it is in stark contrast to the 14th Amendment.
So, do you think? How do I frame this? So, do you think that maybe the reason why they feel that way is because maybe there's a certain skewing in the way in which our government and laws like function and work?
Hey, you're gonna need to rephrase that question, because I do not understand where the hell you're going with that.
How they're written.
So okay, let me take the white man part of it out. Do you think then that just forcing men to get vasectomies, do you think then it would be something that they would enforce?
No, I think a court would still say it's unconstitutional.
You think they would say it's unconstitutional? So you think
yes.
They would say it's unconstitutional to force a man to get a vasectomy, but it's not unconstitutional to force a woman to give birth?
Okay.
Yes.
So this is the point. The reason because
I don't know about that.
Okay. All right, hold on. I'm gonna let Bam get his point out, right? DB, I see you, but before that, after Bam, I want to jump in. I'm gonna try to help Eli here. right?
Don't try to
and
help
then-
him. He's no.
Hold
no,
on,
no,
hold on,
no,
no, hold on. Just give me.
You know, I believe in you, Prime. I believe in you, Prime.
Thank
It's
you.
not him. Okay, you can do it in a good way.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, because the thing is,
Love you too, Fanatic.
what sucks is like I said, I don't want to be fighting you, Eli, because I'm super pro-choice, but you're making really, really, really bad arguments.
They're all
The reason, like the thing is, this is all up to an opinion. What Fanatic said was correct. You were begging the question. You were framing it as in like, obviously this is a bad law. But what the reality is for people who are pro-life right now, we're saying you're asking the AG to allow people to kill 40,000 babies. I just made up a random number. But if would you say that? Or do you think that the government should allow people to kill their children? You would I think you wouldn't consider someone insane if they said no. I don't think they should allow people to do that.
Oh, you're asking me a question?
Yeah, I'm asking, do you like not your opinion, but I'm saying if someone said like, and we don't have to go any nuance, we don't have to go into a fetus, like what is a fetus. But I'm saying if someone was asked, someone else that's not you was asked, do you think the government should allow people to kill their babies? And that person said no. Do you think that person would be irrational? Do you think that you could understand how they came to that conclusion?
Yeah, I think I can understand how they came to that conclusion. Yeah, but I don't view. But then again, I don't view the fetus as like, you know,
Again,
baby.
But they do. That's the thing.
Yeah,
That's
fine,
the entire debate.
That's their opinion, and I think it's.
But that's the entire
Yeah, so that's
debate.
the whole debate. And so, Eli, a better example of the easiest way. Thank you for coming this far. Thank you, thank God, because we finally got past that base point. Would you say that it would make sense? For example, say there was an attorney general that, despite whatever the Supreme Court said, I'm not going to honor same-sex marriages. Like, do you think, like, would you feel that was wrong?
I would feel that that's wrong, but I think that, but I feel like there's a difference here between, you know, same-sex marriage, because I know you probably don't agree with same-sex marriage, but there's a difference between same-sex marriage and, you know, forcing women to give birth against their will.
Okay,
obviously,
yes. What you're pointing out is you're giving me a hypothetical, and yes, I'm giving you a hypothetical. But the whole point that I'm bringing, right? But the whole purpose of the whole purpose was to establish the principle that your point really doesn't, like, this is why we're saying it's begging the question, because what your point doesn't take into account that, like, hey, here's the underlying argument, and basically all you're saying is you would want attorney generals not to fight something that you do and to push things that you don't, right? And all we're basically saying is that, like, rather than us be these people that think we're going to let our attorney generals unilaterally decide stuff, we're just saying we should probably fit within the system, otherwise the system begins to collapse on itself.
Okay, let me try to help. Okay, let me try to help.
I think the system should collapse on it.
Okay. So, all right. The hardest question, as Pan very correctly honed in on at the very start of all this, right? He doesn't do that often, so I was like ecstatic.
Prime, before you go, can I interject with something real quick? I just wanted to say, Fanatic, someone in my chat brought up something very
hard mode.
Brought up something very good, I think, and that is that, you know, the difference here between, you know, my example versus your example or whatever is that same-sex marriage doesn't kill people. However, forcing someone to give birth in many cases can kill them. I get what you're saying. I just think that we have to, again, engage with some level of nuance here and understand that there's a difference between each of these issues, and you can't just sit here and say, well, logical consistency and being, you know, these points are these two arguments are very similar. They're still inherently, like,
right.
different.
So
You
all
just completely neglected. Wait a second.
Point out that, like, the analogies aren't perfect.
Yes.
The whole purpose of an analogy is there will be some things that are different, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yes.
Again, I'm breaking your analogy by saying it's just like, I just don't think that's, I guess I should say it's a false equivalency.
No. I'm not saying they're equivalent. Again, this is the purpose of an analogy. A lot of time when you're using, well, hold on. The purpose when you're using analogies are not to find things that are equivalent. You're to find things that are analogous, right? Like, and so you can say, for example, I don't know. I don't have to go into any examples. You just got to understand that an analogy
I
is
do think-
the analogies are not equivalent, but the point was it was establishing a principle, and the principle should equally apply to both, right? And so in this case, the principle is basically the idea.
You've got to draw a line somewhere, you know. I think in some cases. you gotta
Well,
say, hey,
okay, but so in the same sense, when you're using an analogy as finger is equivalent to branch on a tree, it's like or a twig or whatever. It's like, nigga, yes, like obviously these things aren't whatever. We think human life is going to be more precious, but that's the purpose of an analogy. If you don't know how to follow analogies, it's really simple. Look at the principle, and everything else doesn't have to be consistent. As long as the main point of the analogy, which I think was everyone else here could establish, literally, look, dude, you're in a room with 9 people, and I promise you, the other 8 people in the room all understand what the purpose of the analogy was. You're the only person that's making this ridiculous analogy. If you get that, then your entire objection was meaningless. Please don't proceed with this analogy illiteracy.
I think
Good God, man. If you get that, then why are you objecting? Everyone else can see it, bro. Stop being so objectionable and just admit for the 5th time in this panel that you're wrong.
Okay.
Pan said.
I want to try. Okay. All right. So, from the heart of this question, has Pan, right, said previously, right, as prosecutorial discretion, right, are the question. And it's basically whether we agree with that principle or not, right? That's the basis of the question. We can all agree on this, right? So we can imagine, right, as Fanatic and I think Bam correctly pointed out, right? We can imagine scenarios that we all find objectionable, right? I'm guessing that everyone here, right, would find it objectionable when minors are prosecuted for like as being child pornographers for like taking scantily clad pictures of themselves and sending it to a friend, right? There was that case. It was like a bunch of fucking 12-year-olds who like took pictures of themselves because, you know, 12-year-old girls, that's what they do, right? Like doing that stuff, right? In like their underwear, and somehow that got out, and then they were literally being prosecuted for as like child pornographers. Unfucking believable, right? So I don't think anyone here would object to that. I fucking hope. Please don't hurt me like that. So but the point is that like shouldn't we can all acknowledge that we all have our different senses of justice, right? And I think that's fair, what Bam was trying to point out. But like, then don't we want our elected officials to follow their sense of justice? I mean, that's why we that's part of the reason it should be why you elect a person, right? Because their values align with yours, right? And so
You don't elect.
why not? Hold on. No. So why not? Why would it be wrong to put a person in place who specifically says, right, I understand this is a law in the books, right? I understand that as AG is generally my job to enforce those laws, but this law, as I see it, is either immoral, right, or according to my reading of the Constitution, is incorrect, right? So why wouldn't we want that?
Because you don't elect an AG to be a court. You don't elect an AG to be a lawmaker. An AG is neither the court nor the lawmaker. They get no say in the law and how just the law is.
So just a while ago, you said that it was okay for the AG to not prosecute on people who played cards on Sunday in Louisiana. I don't see why
again.
the same thing wouldn't
No,
apply
it's
to a
in
50-year-old
Indiana, but it's okay.
sorry.
So
Indiana.
like
Why
I
does
was
the same thing not apply to a 50-year-old unenforced anti-abortion law?
Because first off, that law would be unenforceable to begin with. Second off, it'd be constitutionally unenforceable. Second
you
off,
can definitely enforce laws against
playing cards on Sunday.
Absolutely. If it's in a public space, you someone playing cards. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
No, it's not a
easily-
public. It's not a public space thing.
Well, but
I'm
no,
sorry,
you're
did you think it was a
asking-
public
you're
space
saying
thing?
that They can't enforce that law, and Pan is making the argument that they can.
They can.
And I'm making the argument that you constitutionally cannot enforce that law.
Wait, why not?
Wait, which law? The card law or the abortion law?
The card law in your private
Why can't you
home.
why can't you constitutionally enforce the card law? Maybe I'm asking the wrong question, but you can constitutionally enforce the abortion law. What's,
Okay.
Like, why can't they?
Yeah,
Well,
I don't know.
Because
if someone's
there's an
playing cards,
Because Roe v. Wade is
there's
being
an-
overturned.
okay,
That's why. That's
holy
the whole
shit.
conversation. That's the whole conversation. It's because Roe v. Wade is being overturned. So now, once Roe v. Wade is entertained, then that means now the state laws can actually be back to that. That's literally the conversation.
I'm asking, why is it that they can enforce one, but they can't enforce them, or they can't enforce the others? And that's what Pan is asking. Why is it they can?
I just answered that. I'm sorry. I was answering the question. It's because of the fact right now they can't. But once you get to the point where Roe v. Wade is overturned, now you don't have like some Supreme Court precedent that basically says that all the other laws have to be.
He's asking about prosecutor discretion. He's saying,
Fanatic. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Fanatic. He's asking about the card law. They're asking about the card. They're asking about the card law in Indiana.
And Spartacus, like I actually disagree with you. I think that if they wanted to, they probably could enforce the law. Yeah. They could also probably enforce like a law against possessing a deck of cards in the same way they can enforce a law like against possessing marijuana, right? It's just like a material that the state wants to prohibit, so then they're just going to enforce the law against it. I don't actually see constitutional protection.
So what I'm saying is it would be challenged in court and it'd be taken down.
Wait, why?
That's essentially
so. You can pass a law.
Holy shit!
Words out. They could be wrong, but let them finish them.
Spartacus, get your point. I do want to get the DB too.
It would be challenged in court and it'd be taken down because this law has not been enforced for many years, and there's an expectation of privacy in your house. Okay, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Are you good? You good now? Okay, I'm glad, because there was a Supreme Court precedent that didn't allow them to enforce that law. If they did enforce that law, it would be taken to a court and the law would be struck down. So the law was constitutionally unenforceable. So once the states that still have abortion laws on the books that aren't enforced.
No, the cards.
While we switched off that, I said it would be taken down in a court of law.
Right. I'm asking. So hold on. You're saying.
Holy shit.
Well, I'm
not. No. We switched topics. I said it would be taken down in a court of law. I said that in a regular Indiana court that the card law would be taken down because it's been unenforced. It's been unenforced for so long. So now, because if you leave a law unenforced, you don't expect citizens to understand that it's still a law. Just like. Yes, have you seen those crazy laws like you can't take a bath on Sunday or something like that? You ever seen those crazy laws?
Oh, hold on.
Enforceable because they haven't been enforced in so long.
Okay, what basis do you have to assert this? Right, a state AG could come out and be like, "Hey, we're going to start enforcing this law,"
and then it would go to court. You're right.
Yeah, and then it would go to court, and what would
strike it down?
Why would they strike it down?
Each other. Spartacus said it like a bunch of times. Like, yes, he understands that these things can't. Like, a prosecutor could choose to prosecute this, and then what he also is saying though is that as that ran up the ladder, people, I'm pretty sure the Supreme Court would say this seems like an infringement on someone's freedom, and then it would be struck down. That's
yes.
Right.
Thank you.
So do you have any basis for your belief that the Supreme Court would strike it down?
Yes, because obviously it would be like a crazy infringement and violation of someone's like personal autonomy and personal privacy, right? Like that's why.
Wait a minute.
Hold on. Let me just stop right away. Lactoid. Let me just ask you this right now. Do you think if a prosecutor chose to do that, do you think if that ran all the way up to the ladder that the Supreme Court would uphold that law?
If they're following the law, yeah. Like under originalist framework, I would say so. Of course. Like
okay,
the only reason. I
thought we were having the same conversation.
Stop
it.
Go ahead. Okay. Yeah. So unless like you have a Supreme Court that's like particularly politically motivated, then perhaps like in that scenario. But like under a originalist framework, like I don't see any reason why they couldn't ban it. Like the state courts currently ban recreational activity all the time, right? It is illegal to possess marijuana in your home. Why couldn't they also say it is illegal to like play cards in your home? Like you have no argument.
Hey, Spartacus.
I do have an argument. I've made that argument several times.
Spartacus, he's already showing you that he's really not saying here. So just don't go any further back and forth here. Like this is ridiculous.
So correct. The state can prohibit.
Listen. So when you make a constitutional argument, something is unconstitutionally vague. It is that a standard citizen or a normal person cannot understand what is illegal and what is legal underneath the law. Now, when a law is left unenforced for so long, if there's a sudden enforcement of the law, it would be considered unconstitutional because you cannot expect the normal person to understand that is illegal.
wasn't talking about sudden though. He was talking about after making an announcement, which is a big distinction. And I actually also agree with Lactoid in the degree that like I don't think we can make a constitutional difference between cigarettes and marijuana. Like we've decided to, but I think you can make an argument.
We can. What are you?
But I'm saying that like if a state decided that like most of the states currently say that like you can add marijuana. I think you can make an argument like wait a minute, I can have cigarettes in the house. Like this is my right to liberty, and a state can do
they could ban cigarettes. They could ban cigarettes, like right.
Sure.
Let's go.
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
They're thinking about banning menthol cigarettes right now. They're going to ban menthol cigarettes. Like why are we thinking it's like crazy? No, like a state can do this.
So the thing I've been wanting to ask is actually so I'm extremely pro-choice, sociopathically pro-choice, some would say, right? And,
just cheese grater right outside, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think that as I said earlier, I think that the Democratic vote should be respected. That's the law; they should be enforcing it. However, it's just something that I've been like grappling with. That I don't, maybe I miss it, but I don't think it's been brought up yet. So in Texas specifically, currently they have like a heartbeat law, right? So after like 6 weeks, or as soon as a heartbeat can be detected, no abortions. But after if Roe v. Wade is overturned, they've got another law, an older one, that would completely outlaw abortion in almost all cases, right? The only exceptions would be if it's for the to save the life of the mother, and if there's like or if having the baby would cause some kind of like significant bodily like injury to the mother. Right. In every other case, rape, incest, all these things that it would even if the baby were going to be born dead, right? It were like a corpse. It would outlaw abortion in all those cases. And if a doctor were to go through with an abortion for any reason other than to save the life of the mother or for to save her body from like injury or whatever, the doctor could be charged with like up to life in prison and like $100,000 fine. Right. So there are some DAs in Texas who have said outright that they're not going to enforce this, right? And in Texas, according to like recent polls, it's less than 20% of the population agrees with that law, agrees that abortion should be completely outlawed. Over 70%, I think it's like 78% believe that it should be allowed in some cases, right? So most of them don't even agree with that law. So in that case, right, when you have overwhelming opposition to the law, according to these polls, right, by the population, if you have something that's going to make it almost impossible to get an abortion for any reason other than to save your life, and the penalty is up to life in prison for these doctors, right? In that case, right, given that that these people do have some discretion, why couldn't they use their discretion to like not enforce that law specifically?
During this discussion, right, I think that it really, the only time in which I'm against like state AGs doing this is when it starts running afoul of like constitutional protections and equal treatment. I actually am somewhat sympathetic to the argument that was being put forward by several other people here, which is that if they're democratically elected, they do have some discretion, and they're elected based on that discretion. And I actually sort of agree with that. I don't think they should have so much discretion as to run afoul constitutional protections, and whether or not these constitutional protections come into play, I think is something that is yet to be seen, and like the individual state courts is something yet to be a comment on. As to that specific policy, the pretty draconian abortion policy, I'm pretty sure like if the DAs wanted to go after people under that legislation, they probably could. I don't know if the punishment could be deemed as cruel and unusual. That'd be like the only thing that may come up if because it sounds like it's pretty draconian, and they might say, well, it's cruel and unusual, therefore you got to lower the punishment. I don't know. That's probably what might come up if they try to enforce some of those laws. But if the law's in the books and Roe v. Wade is no longer stopping it, and the DA has like authority to prosecute people under laws, I don't know why they couldn't do that.
Yeah, but I'm not asking why they couldn't do it. I think they could, right? But I'm asking. So these people specifically said that they're not, right? Not all of them. I think some DAs in Texas will enforce this, but if some of them said they're just outright not going to do it, right? So, is there like an issue? Because given that they have discretion, is that like a problem? I mean, obviously it's a problem, but like, what can be done about that problem if it is a problem?
Right. Well, so this is where we're getting to the territory where I don't know, because this hasn't been like litigated on like a constitutional level like for any period of time, right? I don't know if a state court is going to like come to the constitutional conclusion, like, look, we have equal protection and we protect life, and we define life as from conception. So like not going after the murderer of a fetus is like, to us in the law, the same as like not going after the killer of like a black man, right? And if the court makes that argument, like in a certain state, and like makes that be like a constitutional like issue, like I could see states starting to like go after DAs who don't prosecute under that law. Now, it remains to be seen whether or not that's going to be the case. Personally, I don't know. I don't know what's going to come up. I do think there should be some discretion. I just don't think discretion should come up in constitutional issues. Because again, I think we all agree here, it would be fucking horrific if like you elected, like, let's say you lived in a state where they were like super racist against black people, and like they all elected like an AG who's like, yeah, I'm just not going to like, I'm not going to go after the killers of black people. I'm just not going to like enforce laws against them. Like we all agree that'd be fucking insane, right?
Sure, but I think there's federal protections there. That now, like, this is bringing up a different part of the conversation. Can a state elected official decide, like, because like I said, that's where you do have like the popularity, the voice of the people, refute state law? I don't know.
But it depends on the state constitution, though, right? Because you have the federal constitution, the federal law, but then you also have the state constitution, which can provide additional rights over and above what the federal law does to individual states, right? So you could very well have a state like interpret like the rights in this manner, which is why it's going to be a very interesting couple of years after Roe gets overturned, like from a legal perspective.
If it was explicit, maybe, but like I don't see any state constitutions saying that a fetus has full personhood. Like I don't see how you could interpret that. Maybe you're
they don't
right,
explicitly say it. Yeah, they don't explicitly say it, which is going to be the argument, against it.
It's more mostly when this stuff is brought up, it's implicit. Just in the same way it was implicit for Roe v. Wade. So give me 1 second. This entire topic is implicit. None of this topic is explicit. It won't be explicit until Congress, Senate, and the president, or a constitutional convention happens and the Constitution fundamentally changes with an amendment.
Wait, hold on, but his argument is that there is currently a constitutional right against it, right? His argument is saying
there's not a constitutional right against it. There's not a constitutional right against it. There's precedent. No, there is precedent.
Lactoid is saying that potentially some state constitutions can be interpreted to be protecting of life. Therefore, not choosing to do prosecute an abortion provider would be the same as not choosing to prosecute a person who's doing racist hate crimes because it's constitutionally protected. My argument is that it's not actually constitutionally protected, and therefore these aren't equivalent.
Right,
Lactoid. So a lot of states have laws that deal with like fetal homicide, for example, right? So it seems like a lot of the states have like some recognition of a life being there, right? So
and that's what I brought up before, right? So like that's where the interpretation could come in, right? You have state constitutions which guarantee protection to life, and you have these same states which have laws in the book that criminalize homicide and criminalize homicide of fetuses. They call it homicide of like. I think in my state, they specifically say like whoever causes death to a unborn person is like guilty of murder, except if the mother does it, because they were trying to stay within the bounds of Roe v. Wade, right? So like they are like the law is saying it's a person, like they are very explicit. And so like in that sort of situation, like I do think it's going to be like a constitutional battle, and I don't know where it's going to end up because man.
Shouldn't they prosecute the women? All of these laws only target abortion providers, right? Women who have abortions aren't going to have any, penalties against them. But if you're saying that fetuses have a constitutionally protected right to life, and that killing a fetus is literally murder, well, then I don't see how you can square that with also saying that women shouldn't be prosecuted for murdering their unborn fetus. I mean, maybe you do have that position, but it seems to me like that would be the logical conclusion, that if there is this implied right, and that killing a fetus is just as bad as killing an actual person, then women who have abortions should be charged with murder. But I don't think you're advocating for that, and no pro-life person, as far as I'm aware of, is advocating for that. So I don't think they believe it, because if they did, they would prosecute.
They are. A lot of them.
Wait. I'm not advocating it for I'm not advocating for anything politically. I'm just simply saying like you're right. Like legally, potentially that could be the case. Like I could see a Supreme Court of a state doing that, like saying like you would have to go after the woman potentially.